everybody. I want to welcome you to the Raw Spiel. It's where we keep it real with the hard truth. And we have a guest here, Mr. Jaron Green of Houston, Texas. He's a um, he's a singer. He's a songwriter. He also has a book that he's written. We'll let him, get into that. This man here, he had a near-death experience. He was taken to Hades, then to heaven, and he's here. He's going to share his experience with us. So, Mr. Green, I want first of all thank you, sir, for agreeing to come on and share your story. And I'm looking forward to hearing your experience. And no, to start off with, how you tell us what led to your near death experience, and go from there to tell us how that come about, and what you saw, while you was in that state.
Well, I actually died in the hospital, and my heart actually stopped. I really appreciate you for inviting me to your show. So I was in the hospital, and my heart stopped. Well, as soon as my heart stopped, actually before my heart even stopped, I saw an angel. Mm-hmm. I saw an angel, and he passed right by me. And then that's when I died. But then as soon as I died, as soon as my eyes closed and I went into that darkness, I heard a boom, as if a grenade went off or a bomb went off. As soon as my eyes closed and I died, it was boom, boom. It was just loud, man. And I saw fire, man. It was just fire came out of the darkness. And then that boom sound, it was what it was as soon as my spirit had entered into the realm of the dead, which is Hades, it was all of those people yelling at one time. Mm-hmm. And it was just so many people yelling. As soon as I entered into the realm of the dead, it was the sound hit me as a bomb sound when I first entered in. And then I was able to hear the sounds of people. But my spirit was actually trapped in the hospital. And so I was walking, and I was walking out of the hospital. And as I got to the door, I noticed as I looked out of the door, because the doors slide. As I looked outside, I seen that there was a fire wall. It looked as if it was a fire flaming up from the ground. And the wall was I'm about 5'6". So the firewall was about up to my waist or a little high, but it was just flames coming up from the ground, from as if it was a gas stove. And I couldn't go through the fire because it was hot enough to burn my spirit. So I didn't want to touch it. Immediately, I seen an angel, and the angel asked me, why am I here? I told him, I don't know. So the angel immediately, I passed through the fire. I walked through this fire. And then immediately I was pulled up to heaven. And heaven is right here. The skies is heaven. So I'm in heaven, but I'm standing on a rooftop. But the roof is floating. It's floating. I could see the clouds. I even touched the clouds. I even knelt down at the edge of the rooftop, and I actually touched the clouds. Mm-hmm. But when I touched the clouds, one of the something grabbed me and pulled me off of the rooftop. Then the angel put me back on the rooftop, and he said, "Don't let." him pull you down again. You have to jump. And I asked him, I don't understand. Why do I have to jump down there if I'm in heaven? He said, you can't stay here because it's not my time yet. I can't stay here because I had something attached to me that wouldn't allow me to stay in heaven, even though I was dead. So I couldn't go to Hades because I was a pure soul, but I couldn't go to heaven because I had something attached to me that I need to get off. So he said that I needed to go back to earth. So that's when after he pulled me off the first time, the angel put me back on the roof. Then that's when I seen a demon coming up off the side of the roof. And there was a door. There was a door on the back side of me. I ran to the door, but I couldn't open the door. And I heard some woman saying something, but I couldn't open the door. The door was either yellow or gold. Well, so then I looked behind me, and there was a demon coming up, and he was wrapped. He was wrapped up like as if he was a mummy, but he was burned. Everything was on him was burned, and that's why they were wrapped, because they were burned. And I could see that they were burned, like everything was burned on them. But they were trying to grab me, and I was trying to figure out why were they coming to heaven if these were demons. So they pulled me off the second time. Then the angel put me back on. He said, "Man, you have to jump." So then 2 more demons came up. One came from the back, one came from the side. Then I jumped. I ran and I jumped off the building, and I landed on earth. But I landed in a different realm. It wasn't Hades. It wasn't heaven. It was a dark realm on earth. And the spirits were able to move like Superman or like Flash. They were able to move. They were so fast that human eye wouldn't be able to see them. They would be able to just run right by, and we wouldn't be able to even see a shadow or anything. Well, that's how fast they were moving. They weren't moving by their flesh. They were moving by their mind. And that's how I was moving. I was moving by my mind. So wherever I wanted my body to be, that's where I was at. So in this dark realm, there was no sun. There was no moon. It was like darkness was the moon. It was as if darkness was the sun. It was just light. The light was the darkness. But there were other lights that I saw. And those lights were the light in people. So I seen a big light and I recognized it. So I ran to it, and it was my grandmother's house. So that's when I started looking for my body. I tried to put my spirit in my body. But remember, I died at the hospital. But when I came back home, I wasn't at the hospital. I was at my grandmother's house looking for my spirit, looking for my body. Well, I couldn't find it, so I ran to the bedroom, and I remember it clearly, man. I ran to the bedroom. There was a demon chasing me. I laid in the bed. As soon as I laid in the bed, I started panicking because my spirit didn't go back in my body. So that's when one of them jumped and bit me on my arm. It bit me on my arm. I don't know if you can see it, but I have a dark bite mark right here. You probably can't see it, but it's a mark right here somewhere. Well, it bit me on my arm, and it left 6 teeth mark. Well, for some reason, when I came back, I didn't come back at the hospital. I came back as a child, but that's when I figured out what deja vu was. Okay, so this is the only way I learned out what deja vu actually was, because I died in the hospital at 27, but when I came back to earth, I was at my grandmother's house, and I was like 6 or 7. So I'm trying to figure out, why did I go back in time? So I lived my life over again. I finally made it back up to the hospital where I died at again, except this time, instead of dying and going to heaven and Hades, I woke up in the hospital and I went to jail. I just did 5 years and in TDCJ, Texas prisons. And now let me explain exactly what happened before you try to figure out, okay, how did he go back in time? Well, before any of this even happened, after I died, well, let me tell you this part. After I died, I went to jail, And that's when I start recognizing and hearing what God had said to me. That's when my ears were open, because I had died and I was born again. And he had actually sent me back, but I was an angel because I had already died. So that's when I was able to recognize and see. My eyes had became open, and he had marked me too. He marked me. I have 2 marks on him, on me, but I don't want to let you know where they're at, but he did actually mark me. So I do have 2 brands from the Lord himself, Harold. And while I was in prison, before I went to prison, I had a record deal. I had a record deal with a company called Majestic Records. Well, I wrote a song called Missing You, and he wanted to buy the song for $200,000. But I had a situation going on with the law, and I became incarcerated before the deal was finished. So I had to cancel the deal. But I'm so glad I did, because I really had almost sold my soul. And I didn't even know what was going on. I had heard things about Illuminati, and I had heard things about people selling their souls, but I intentionally never tried to actually sell my soul. Something had happened in my life that caused me to get in when I actually did not actually go to the door and knock myself. Somebody actually had pulled me in. And I'm going to explain that right now to you. Well, what happened was, I have an auntie, and she did music. Her name was Shirley Burns. And she has a daughter named Ashanti, which is my cousin. Well, my aunt was murdered, and my cousin's father was murdered. So her father and her mother were murdered a year apart. Well, my cousin took me to someone's house in Michigan, which is where I was raised at. And this dude, he took me in his basement. And when I first went in his house, he had a big Rottweiler, the biggest Rottweiler I ever seen in my entire life. It was huge. It was a big Rottweiler. Well, we went into his basement, and then I seen a big pentagram on his floor, a 5-star pentagram. Like the satanic pentagram with the circle and the 5 stars in it. With the 5 stars. Yeah, like how the Chucky on his movie, how he comes back from the dead. So I seen that on his floor, and it was huge. And his floor was painted red. So I don't do music. I didn't believe anything like that. So I started playing the game on his TV. Then he comes in there and he says, "Hey man, do you want to make a wish?" So I told him, "Yeah, man, I'll make a wish." But I didn't think anything of it, as if like I was just trying to play his game, as if a person plays chess or dominoes. I was really just trying to play his game with him. He was in a wheelchair, and he told me he died about 7 times. That's what he told me, Harold. He told me he died about 7 times, Harold. So he was already about 70 pounds. So he took out a crystal ball, man. Out of nowhere, it was just a crystal ball came out of his hands. And then he told me to do something. So I did what he wanted me to do. I'm not going to repeat that because I don't want to affect anybody else's life. So I did what he wanted me to do, and he wanted me to look into the crystal ball and make a wish. So I made a wish. I want you to guess what my wish was.
I have no idea. It has something to do with music, or?
Yep. I wish to become rich and famous off of my music.
So he was trying to, that was kind of like a initiation.
Well, like I told you earlier, it's not something that I went to. My cousin took me to him. And what I believe she did was she was more than likely using him to contact her mother and her father. Do you understand what I'm saying? So